Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Cioffi. It's a Thursday, and if this were the total eclipse day, and you were in the path of totality in South Carolina on up through Tennessee, you'd be in good shape. There's not a whole lot of cloud cover going on, at least this morning, and you can see where the clouds are back through St. Louis and Kansas City, Nebraska, covered in clouds. And then as we move out to the west, I'll let the map fill in. Hopefully it'll do that. And you can pick out where skies are clear. A good portion of the west is clear. Some scattered clouds in the Rockies. And that's just about it. Now, that's today. That's at this moment. It's where we're going to be on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can see down in South Carolina, the cloud, this is percentage sky cover. So it's basically got 50 to 60% sky cover. But go on the other side of the mountains and in Tennessee, and the numbers drop into the 30s and 20s. So Nashville might not be a bad place here. And then it goes back up to St. Louis and to 43% sky cover, Kansas City at 54%. So, it's kind of a dice roll for a few spots here with regards to that. Nashville would be the pick at the moment of the three areas, say if it was between St. Louis, Nashville, and Charleston. Nashville, I guess, would be the pick right now. And if we look up at the Northeast, cloud-free days in the Northeast really don't happen very often. And this is about as good as it's going to get, really. And you've got sky cover down to, in some cases, under 20%. A large area in the teens. Unfortunately, here the eclipse is only going to be at about 75%. But you should be able to see it unless you happen to be in the spot where that 20% cloud cover covers the sun at the time of the eclipse. So just bear that in mind. All it really takes is one cloud at the wrong time, and you've got a problem. Okay, we're going to switch off to the tropics because we've got these three tropical waves, and it's the lead wave that is now approaching Barbados and the Leeward Islands, where we are going to have perhaps some issues. The Hurricane Center has now raised the probability of this system developing to 80% in the next 48 hours and 90% in the next 5 days because you have favorable conditions for development. And it appears that there's some kind of low-level circulation here that is developing as well. And here's the tight, visible satellite shot this morning. It's not the biggest of systems. I'm not, I can see there's some outflow here. You can see how the clouds are just kind of, they're trying to circulate, these low clouds circulating counterclockwise. So there's some kind of circulation here. I'm not sure if this is it. This may be it right on the edge with the convection on the western side and not so much on the eastern side at the moment. But an Air Force aircraft is scheduled to investigate this later today. And here's the wide view. You actually have an expansion of clouds and showers north of Puerto Rico, although this is more cold core. You can see there's an upper low here right in there, so we're not too concerned about that. Here's the second wave behind it. Doesn't actually, even this one looks like there's at least a little bit of turning at maybe perhaps at the mid-levels and a little bit of cirrus outflow. We had this look yesterday as well, so we're going to watch this wave to see what happens. Conditions are still favorable for this to develop, at least for the next couple of days. After that, it may run into some problems, you may be in the vicinity of this upper low. But this one's going to chug along and head out to the west. So why don't we take a look? The one that's going into the Caribbean is going to wind up going westward, and more than likely probably heading its way into Central America. Let's. I'll pull up the track guidance out of this, and let's move out. Hurricane Gert is going to be gone before too long, so we're not really going to spend any time on that. But here's the model track guidance on the system approaching the Caribbean. You can see tightly clustered into just north of Central America, and perhaps headed to the Yucatan Peninsula again. This almost looks like the track of Hurricane Franklin, and in hurricane seasons, patterns that set themselves up, you wind up getting things repeating themselves. And with respect to the intensity guidance, you've got a lot of them strengthening this into a tropical storm in short order, and a couple of them take it up into Category 1 hurricane back later in the period as you get toward 120 hours and beyond. But there are also some models that really don't do very much with this. So it's not a consensus that this thing is going to strengthen beyond maybe a tropical depression, but we have to actually get to a tropical depression first. And with regards to the other wave, this one on the model track guidance all clustered north of the Leeward Islands in Puerto Rico on a general westward course. So it's going to be a question of whether conditions are going to be favorable or not. So we'll now mosey on back to the GFS. And I really don't even want to spend that much time focusing on specific tracks, because the problem is the models every run are doing something different. In some cases, some models are losing these tropical systems completely. So I think I would rather just look at the upper air. First, let's look at the surface in the short range for us. Another warm front, cold front combination moving into the northeast. So we've got some showers late tonight into Friday morning, and then maybe some showers and storms late Friday into Friday night. Weather conditions in general improve over the weekend. And of course, we've got a nice high building just in time for the eclipse. This is Monday afternoon, by the way. So if I had to, give a good guess here, you're probably in good shape here. You're mostly in good shape out in the west, except where there's diurnal issues. And then it's probably, right in this area here that, you're going to have question marks regarding cloud cover. This time of year, with the nature of showers and thunderstorms being scattered and a lot of the precipitation being convective in nature, you can have all this stuff going on around you, and at the same time you could have a wide open sky and get a good view. So let's just hope this all works out for everybody. This is quite an experience, especially for those of you who are going to be experiencing the total eclipse, because you are headed over to the path of totality, or perhaps you're lucky enough to live in the path of totality. Okay, so next week, one interesting thing that's going to happen, I think the models have been showing this, all of the models show this, along about Wednesday, we have a pretty vigorous cold front that's moving through and a big high that's dropping down out of Canada. This is a nice shot of cool air that's going to be coming into the Great Lakes, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic states for later next week. It's going to get cool up in New England, especially with this. So I'm looking forward. This is kind of like a first taste of autumn here with the way this high is coming down, and it actually keeps things rather cool right through next weekend, which, by the way, is the next to last weekend before the weekend before Labor Day, the Labor Day holiday weekend, in which case summer's done. Hey, look at this on the GFS, the last day of the month, some snow appearing up in parts of southwestern Canada, up in the mountains, I'm sure. And heading out to the end of the period, another high is getting ready to come down. Looks like a bit of an onshore flow setting up with the high going out to the east along the east coast. So it's going to be an interesting pattern setting up, I think, overall, regardless of whether there's any tropical systems involved. And the upper air, and this is, again, the primary importance here is going to be the structure of the upper air. We know there's tropical waves around, and we know the models are not going to be good with picking out which ones are going to develop and which ones aren't. So we will just stay with the idea of what the upper air is telling us in terms of whether areas are at risk or not. And, we're starting out here. You've got this ridge. So our first system is already underneath the ridge that's off the east coast. Here's a weakness here right in the middle. See, and that's in response to this upper low. So there's a bit of a weakness here. This is for 2 a.m. Friday. And over time, you still have that ridge out in the Atlantic east-west. So that would favor things moving more westerly than anything else. But again, there are going to be weaknesses. And then by the middle of next week, you've got this deep trough that pops up in the eastern part of the United States. You can see it there on the GFS. And the westerlies actually get pretty far south, down into almost into northern Florida here. So anything that is out in the Atlantic at this point by the middle of next week would go up and out because of the way the structure of the jet. You've got southwest winds out in the Atlantic. The ridge kind of retreats back into the central and eastern Atlantic. So that is where you're weak. And anything that's going to be out there is going to want to respond to that. That trough takes its time getting out of the way, but eventually it does lift out. And if this is correct, as we move through the very last days of August and into the first part of September, models are building a rather big ridge here in the eastern part of the United States. So that could mean for some very warm weather setting up for the beginning of September. Here is the ridge in the Atlantic, and you have a weakness right here along 60, 65, so that anything that is out here will be responding to that weakness. All right, folks, let's end it right here, and we will now move forward with just a little bit of conversation while I have some. Okay, hang on. All right, I'm getting better at this, I think. So, all right, so you see what's happening here with the overall weather pattern across the Atlantic and along the East Coast. We do have, these troughs that keep showing up and disappearing. At least it looks like we're going to have some pretty good weather through the weekend and for Monday for the eclipse in the northeastern part of the U.S. The numbers are looking good in terms of the forecast percentage sky cover. Generally going to be anywhere between 70 and 80% cloud free, which usually is about as good as it gets. This is not the Southwest desert where it's 100% cloud free from start to finish. I'm assuming you guys can hear me. Okay, Raymond, we do have a marginal risk that sets up for eastern Pennsylvania, I think up into the Catskills and out to about New York City, down through New Jersey. It's not a big area. I'm not, crazy excited over it, but we'll see. The air is going to saturate only to some degree tomorrow, so there'll probably be a few isolated cells in the mix. And then after that, the weekend weather looks pretty good. By the way, while I have everybody here, and because the National Hurricane Center apparently must watch my live streams and waits for me to say something with regards to the tropical systems, and then right afterward they make them there it is. They did it to me again. I knew it. The Hurricane Center has now they just issued a special advisory for potential for Tropical Cyclone 9 located east of the Windward Islands. So we are about to have, let me just go real quick. I'll tell you, low pressure area east of the Lesser Antilles expected to become a tropical cyclone later today or tonight. 13.1 north, 54.1 west. Top winds 35 miles an hour. I guess because they had to put up tropical storm warnings up for some of the islands. And let me see if they have a discussion out here. Satellite imagery, experimental 1-minute data from GOES 16, circulation of low pressure area east of the Antilles better defined, and a cluster of strong convection is formed just to the west of the center. Based on this, advisories are being initiated for a potential tropical cyclone. Air Force Recon on its way to investigate. And they forecast this, by the way, to become a hurricane by 96 hours, where they have it at 15.5 and 82 west. So they just basically take it on a west to west northwest course all the way through and gradually strengthen it right through the period. See, I'm telling you, they wait for me to do these things. Yeah, you know what, Delvin? The problem is I have to, I got to hit the road to get to work. So it's kind of tough for me. So I'm trying to time it. I had a feeling that this was going to happen today. So It's okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, we actually can see the progress of what's going on, so it's fine. But it's just kind of funny because this is the third time this has happened to me in the last month or so. Anyway, all right, so we're gonna leave it here. I'll put up a new post on meteorologist joecioffi.com with regards to the tropical system a little later today. And also, we'll see what the other waves decide to do. Raymond, didn't the European model pick that up? Yeah, the European's been kind of showing it, straddling down in the southern Caribbean and moving straight across. Actually, they wanted to take it into the southwestern Gulf. It really sort of looks like a repeat of the track that Hurricane Franklin took. So, a lot of times in a given season, things aren't ever exactly the same, but they do tend to rhyme. So wouldn't be a big shock to me if this winds up taking a track similar to the one that Franklin did. All right, folks, I hope you're going to have a really great Thursday. Enjoy the nice weather. I'm liking it today because it is a few degrees cooler than it was yesterday. And we'll, again, update you later on today when we get a good feel for what's going on with respect to the tropics and the possible threat for severe weather tomorrow in some areas. Although, again, I'm not really too overly enthused about that situation at the moment. Have a great day. We'll talk to you on Friday.